Howdy, folks. Day after tomorrow, we are going to start our 10th, I think it's the 10th, but maybe it's not the 10th, Zen retreat at Mount Baldy Zen Center up in Mount Baldy, California, which is, I think it's over there. It's about an hour away from Los Angeles by car, but you feel like you're in a whole other world because you're way up on the mountains with no cell phone reception, no internet access. You're just there. We're keeping silent. We're doing the full retreat in full silence. Not full silence. We actually allow what is called, what do we call it? Functional talk. That's what we call it. Functional talk. So if you have to say something, don't just pantomime it like, you can say, I need a rake. You don't have to like pantomime raking and things like that. But we don't allow conversation and chit-chat and stuff. So no talk about politics, no talk about this Unabomber dude that's out there bombing the Clintons and the Obamas. None of that stuff is allowed. And I guarantee you, you're going to want to have a break from that. And I am very glad to be having a break from it. And lucky for you, registration is still open. We're keeping it open until the last possible minute, until either all the spaces are filled or until we leave on Friday morning. We're going to accept new people. So please come. And I've prepared something for that retreat that I'd like to read to you. This is also on my blog, and I'll put a link to it there so you can read it in case. And if you're a Patreon member, you can actually read it with the Japanese characters intact. I wrote it with a lot of Japanese characters in it, but WordPress, which is what I use for hardcorezen.info, doesn't allow those characters to appear. I don't know why. Go talk to them and ask them why. So I had to put those all in Roman letters, but if you go to the Patreon version, you can see it with the Japanese characters. Isn't that great? The piece I'm going to talk about during the 3 lectures at this retreat is called Zenki, which is really, really hard to translate. My teacher translated it as all functions, and there's several other translations for it. It's the Zen is easy. Zen is, in Japanese, there's a lot of words that sound the same, but have different meanings. So the Zen in Zenki is not Zen as in Zazen. It's a word that means all, full, total. It's the same Zen that appears in the title of this book, Urutara Senshi Tokusatsu Dai Zenshu. So it's this Zen right there. So this is Ultra Warrior, special effects, but total assembly. I don't know how to translate Dai Zenshu. You see it a lot in these kind of books. It means like the whole thing. So Zen means, in this case, all. The ki is the hard one because ki just means something like functions. It's the first character in the word for machine, and in that case it refers to the part of the machine that does the work, like the little turny wheel or the gear or something like that. I think it originally meant gear. There's a Chinese fellow who comes to our Zen group who said that he believes it originally meant gear. Some other translations include undivided activity, that's Tanahashi and Ed Brown. And Nishiyama and Stevens' version is the total activity of life and death. They just added life and death there. Abe and Waddell used total dynamic working. Thomas Cleary translated it as the whole works, which is, I think, probably as close as you're going to get in English. My first teacher, Tim McCarthy, translated it as the whole shebang, which I liked. Hi, Tim. And for this version, I chose to translate it or restate it or reinterpret it as Limitless Potential. And I did that because I was looking at the different ways of rendering Zen and Ki, and I found that those sub-meanings of it had kind of gone unnoticed by previous translators, and those are also meanings that are embedded within the phrase Zenki, is potential in terms of Ki, and limitless in terms of Zen. But the potential aspect of it doesn't really get played up in these other translations, if you say function or works or these other kinds of things, or shebang. So let me read it to you. Let me read you this thing that I've been laboring over for about a week. Okay? Limitless potential. The great truth of all Buddhas, when completely mastered, is breaking free and is enlightenment. Breaking free means that life breaks free of life and death breaks free of death. So there is departing from life and death, and there is entering into life and death. And both of these are examples of completely mastering the great truth. There is also throwing away of life and death and engaging in life and death. And both of these are also examples of completely understanding the great truth. Enlightenment is this life, and life is this enlightenment. And I used this in it because there's a kore, which means this, appears in the original version, and the word I'm translating as enlightenment is genjo, which is Dogen's favorite word for realization and things like that. So other translators didn't say, they would just say enlightenment is life and life is enlightenment or something like that, but I used this to make it more like the original, I think. At the time of enlightenment, there is nothing but the total enlightenment of life, and there is nothing but the total enlightenment of death. This pivotal moment right now causes life to be life and causes death to be death. This very moment right now, which is the pivotal state of enlightenment itself, isn't necessarily big, but isn't necessarily small either. It's not the entire universe, but it's not just one place either. It doesn't last a long time, nor does it vanish quickly. Life in this very moment right now is the pivotal state of enlightenment. The pivotal state of enlightenment is this very moment of life right now. Life isn't something that comes, nor is life something that goes away. Life isn't the experience of the present moment, and life isn't the realization of that experience. And that's a hard line to translate, because what Dogen basically says is he takes that word genjo, which usually means realization, and splits it up and says life isn't gen and life isn't jo. So you can't really make that pun, but gen is to perceive, and jo is the present moment. So literally what Dogen means when he says what we kind of translate as realization and enlightenment is perceiving the present moment. Thus, life is limitless potential and death is limitless potential. There are countless realities inside you. Now, realities is the word dharma here, so there are countless dharmas inside you, and I just decided to make it reality. Among these, there is life and there is death. Just quietly think about it for a bit. Is your own present life and the countless realities within it part of life itself or not part of life itself? There isn't any instant or any real occurrence that isn't part of life itself. There's not one thing or even so much as a single state of mind that is not part of life itself. Life is like a person on a boat. On this boat, I unfurl the sail, I steer with the rudder, I use the pole to shove off, but at the same time, the boat carries me, and there is no me beyond the boat. The boat is, I think, his reference for the human body or the human form. Because I'm sailing on it, the boat becomes a boat. Let's closely study this mysterious moment right here and now. And the reason I stuck the word mysterious in there, and other translators seem to kind of gloss over this, is that Dogen uses this word inmo, which I've talked about in some of my books, which just means this or what. And Nishijima Roshi liked to translate it as the ineffable. So I made it mysterious, this mysterious moment. In this mysterious moment, there's nothing but the world of the boat. The sky, the water, and the shore have all become the time of the boat, which is totally unlike times when I'm not on the boat. So life is what I make it, and I am what life makes me. While I'm sailing on the boat, my body, my mind, and everything that surrounds me are the limitless potential of the boat. The entire earth and all the universe are the limitless potential of the boat. Thus, life itself is I myself, and I myself am life itself. An ancient Zen master said, life is limitless potential, death is limitless potential. And of course, what he actually said is Zenki. Life is Zenki, and death is Zenki. We should really look into these words. When he says life is limitless potential, it means that there's no beginning or end to life. Life is the entire earth and the whole universe. Even so, this doesn't interfere with life being limitless potential, and it doesn't interfere with death being limitless potential either. When he says death is limitless potential, that means that death is also the entire Earth and the whole universe. Even so, that doesn't stop life from being limitless potential, and it doesn't stop death from being limitless potential either. Life doesn't get in the way of death, and death doesn't get in the way of life. The entire Earth and the whole universe are right there in life, and they're also right there in death. But it's not as if the entire Earth is one thing and the whole universe is another thing. And it's not like limitless potential operates as life sometimes and limitless potential operates as death at other times. It's not one undivided thing, and yet it's not separate things either. It's not identical, but it's also not different. So, the many real things we experience in life are limitless potential, and the many real things we experience in death are limitless potential. Furthermore, even states that are beyond life and death are limitless potential too. Within limitless potential, there is life and there is death. The limitless potential of life and death is like a person extending an arm. Or it's like a person reaching back in the middle of the night to adjust a pillow. Such an action is realized where there is an abundance of divine light. And that's really what he says. He says divine light. But I think he's trying to say that just mere existence itself, which we tend to gloss over, is an actual honest-to-God bona fide miracle. In the very moment of enlightenment, the limitless potential of life and death become completely clear. We might feel that before enlightenment there was no enlightenment. We feel that way because we ourselves are a manifestation of enlightenment. And yet the time before enlightenment was the previous manifestation of limitless potential. And even though there was a previous manifestation of limitless potential, that doesn't get in the way of the current manifestation of limitless potential. Every moment is limitless potential. Because this is so, our different ways of understanding are different fragments of enlightenment vying to be realized. The end. So that's what we're going to talk about, and if you want to hear more about it, you're going to have to go to the retreat. That's my little carrot on a stick for you, because we want to get some people at this retreat. So come up, and I'm going to give 3 lectures about that and tell you what I think it means, and then we'll have a discussion in which we'll all get to talk about what it means, and I'll bring the Japanese original with me, and we can just chow down on it. And also we'll sit in complete silence, and we won't talk about Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or mail bombers or any of that stuff. We're going to totally immerse ourselves in the experience of silence, as the ancients did when everything was going to shit in their neighborhoods too. So just for those of you who haven't heard me say this yet, if you think that the ancient Zen people didn't have all kinds of crazy political shit going on right in their neighborhoods, you'd never studied history. You're just totally ignorant. So just like Dogen did when Kyoto's rivers were full of blood and corpses, which he does say in his writings, and that's one of the reasons he moved out of Kyoto, but he did have a temple in Kyoto while those streets were full of blood and corpses, and he was meditating. That's what we're going to do in much, much nicer times than he lived in. So come up there. Also, if you want to support me, Patreon and PayPal links are below. And if you get Patreon, you can see things like this translation with all the Japanese characters intact. So do that. I'll see you later. Bye.